So when we think of Claude Monet, we think of him as the leader of Impressionism, the artist who showed us how light flickers on water, how the world changes with each passing moment. But Monet's influence didn't stop there. In fact, he, and later Vincent van Gogh, became the bridge between Impressionism and Expressionism. In his early work, Monet painted what the eye sees, fleeting impressions of sunlight, atmosphere, and movement. But as he grew older, especially in his great water lily series at Giverny, his brushstrokes became looser, his colors more powerful, and his forms almost dissolved into pure emotion. Those late paintings weren't simply about recording nature anymore. They were about how nature feels. And that is exactly the spirit that expressionist painters like Behrens would carry forward. So you could say Impressionism began by capturing the outer world, and Expressionism expressed the inner world, and Monet, standing between them, helped the art world move from one to the other. So what I'd like to show you now, so you can see for yourself the impact that Monet had on Howard. If you'll notice those two paintings on the left, and then Howard's version of them on the right, you can see the impact of the reflections of light and clouds and movement. Here's water. Howard loved the way Monet painted water, and he tried to emulate that in his paintings. Here's Monet's Etretat and Howard's painting of Etretat. There's Monet's paintings of red, what are they called? Poppies, fields of poppies. And below are Howard's paintings of poppy fields. And here's some additional paintings. Most of these were done at Monet's last home in Giverny, and we were there as well, and Howard painted those same scenes. There's the very famous Impressions of Sunrise, or Soleil Levant, which introduced the world to Impressionism, and the lower one is Howard's Impressions of Sunrise that he painted right around in September of 2010, around the time he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So let's talk about Van Gogh. If you trace the path from Impressionism to Expressionism, Vincent van Gogh is the bright burning bridge in the middle. It's been said that before Van Gogh, painters showed us the world, and after him, they showed us their souls. Van Gogh was not formally part of the Expressionist movement, but he's widely seen as a major precursor. Expressionism was for him, as it was for Howard, about intensifying inner emotions rather than depicting outer reality. Van Gogh's paintings were characterized by exaggerated color. He often pushed colors beyond naturalistic tones. Think of the saturated flowers in sunflowers, saturated yellows in sunflowers, or the electric blues and swirling violets of Starry Night. His work was characterized by visible, passionate brushwork. His thick, swirling strokes made the artist's own energy, even turmoil, part of the painting, a hallmark of later Expressionism, and they had psychological depth. Works like Wheatfield with Crows are emotionally charged landscapes conveying anxiety, hope, or despair rather than just scenery. I personally will never forget one day standing in Amsterdam at the Van Gogh Museum, transfixed by this painting and surrounded by 100 other people. And I honestly felt that I could almost feel the heartbeat in the paint. But let's go back. So you've all heard the sad story that Van Gogh lived a very short and deeply tormented life. He died by his own hand, feeling his life was a miserable failure. But the work he did, as I mentioned, pioneered the Expressionist style. His painting showed a lack of brushwork as he, in his haste to capture it, would often spread the color he saw in life thickly onto the canvas with a palette knife, and even sometimes straight from the tube. The Impressionists were trying to catch the light, what the eye sees in a passing moment, and the Expressionists, like Van Gogh and like Behrens, a generation and several more later, wanted something different. Not what the world looks like, but what it feels like inside. Van Gogh did both at once. He painted the world around him, but he twisted the color, pushed the blues deeper, the yellows hotter, until every stroke carried emotion. His brushwork was bold and visible,